This episode brought to you by thegiveawaygeek.com. Win board games, electronics, and gift cards at thegiveawaygeek.com. The geek that keeps on giving. Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're bringing you our Pandemic Legacy review. Finally, I know that I finished up the gameplay recaps a while ago. We just haven't gotten around to doing a review. This will be a spoiler-free review. There will be another video that is a spoiler-filled review, so watch whichever one you prefer. This game, Pandemic Legacy, well, first off, let's start with Pandemic. Now, Pandemic is one of my favorite games of all time. It is definitely my top 10. I can't remember exactly where it fell. My wife and I have played the crap out of Pandemic, the original Pandemic. We have just, I believe we're near maybe over 50, somewhere in that range with the number of games we played of Pandemic. Pandemic Legacy, therefore, was almost certain to, at least initially, be an enjoying experience for us. The idea of Legacy for me is thoroughly enjoyable. And by the way, you're not going to find any sort of gameplay footage in this video. For those of you who haven't seen my channel before, the way I do my reviews are just reviews. There's no rules explanation, none of that. You can go and find earlier videos to get the rules explanation or gameplay or any of that stuff. So, back to the game. When we started playing Pandemic Legacy, when you started, it starts off very similar to Pandemic, but then even in the first mission, there's a couple things that change, and as you go along, it just keeps building and building and building. It's definitely one of those things where you need to be able to kind of roll with the rule changes, I would say. That you're going to be given sometimes a lot of rules to digest, especially now. Some of this stuff that you're going to get that gets unlocked in this game is apparently from some of the expansions. The only expansion I have is in the lab for the regular Pandemic. Nothing from in the lab shows up in this game. So apparently a lot of the stuff that unlocks is from those expansions. And as far as that goes, if you were already familiar with how some of that stuff worked, then it's not quite as big of a learning curve for those rules. We had never played any of the expansions other than in the lab, so we were not familiar with any of that stuff at all. And so therefore it was a little bit of a learning curve, really, when some of that stuff comes out. And not so much in knowing exactly how to use it as it was remembering to use it. There's certainly certain things that, we would play a level and then, or a month, and then at the end of the month, we would say, oh, look at this thing. We didn't even touch this at all. Why didn't we do that? If we had used this particular thing that we had unlocked, that probably could have been the difference in that month. Now, I'll say this, they give you a rules reference card similar to what you have in regular Pandemic. Well, they do give you one just like that one. And then they give you one for all the new rules, where as new rules come out, you put a sticker on it, and that way you can refer back and easily remember that I have that action available to me as well. So that's really good, and that's on us for not referring to it. However, something you should keep in mind is if you're not familiar with a lot of the stuff, you're going to want to routinely refer back, even if you're thinking to yourself, no, there's no reason to, because there's probably something you're forgetting. And we played a good string of this. We went from October straight through till December, mid-December. From mid-October to mid-December, talking about real life months, we knocked out about half the game, a little over half the game. And then our baby was born. And so then obviously we took a break, and it wasn't until mid-April. So we took a break from mid-December to mid-April when we picked it back up. And I'll be honest, it took us a little while longer to pick it back up because it was a little daunting thinking about relearning some of that stuff and getting refamiliarized with what was going on in the game. Now let's talk about the components real quick. All the components are... They're just as good as anything in regular Pandemic. In terms of the dossiers, which are where a lot of the hidden information is, all of that was really well done. I know that in the errata, where's that errata sheet? When I opened the box. There was this errata that talked about one of the doors, door 42. There might be some stuff in there that's falling apart or whatever. Just keep that in mind and be careful, that sort of thing. Never really ran into that. Never had any problem with that. All the stickers worked really well. They did exactly what they're supposed to. There's no issue with them sloughing off or falling off or anything like that. There's no tearing, when you're trying to get some of the stickers off or trying to open the dossier doors. Everything worked really well as far as that goes. Did not run into any problems with missing cards or having items that should have been behind one door in another door, or any of the boxes missing stuff. Everything was where it was supposed to be, which I was happy to see, because with Risk Legacy, that was not the case, and that was a problem where there were two factions you could unlock in Risk Legacy, and they were switched, and they were in opposite boxes of what they should have been, and that was really obnoxious and really annoying. With Pandemic Legacy, didn't run into any of those problems. The cards were all, the same quality that they are in regular Pandemic, which in my mind is a little bit thin considering how much wear and tear you can put on these cards. So all my cards, even though it's a Legacy game, I sleeve them for the duration of the play. And now, of course, I've got a whole bunch of sleeves that I can use for other games, so I'm excited about that. But I did sleeve them because, especially, let me show you with the, I've never understood this. The Infection deck has black borders or really, really dark green borders or whatever. And that's pretty commonly known, and it should be known amongst somebody who, such as Matt Leacock and Rob Davio, who designed the game. And maybe they didn't have anything specifically to do with the way the back of this card looks. But regardless, black borders nick up real easily and start getting marked real easily. And I think in a game where you're shuffling cards as much as you are, again, especially the Infection deck, the player deck is shuffled less. But look, it has the player deck, which is shuffled less, has lighter borders, which is what you want. It has almost white, light blue borders, much less likely to get marked. So I don't understand why the Infection deck had black borders. Again, it's just like it does in regular Pandemic over there, I guess. It has black borders as well, and that's just the design choice they went with, and I think that's a mistake. Again, I sleeved them, so it's not a big problem for me. The cubes were all good. In all the little chits that I can't talk about because this is spoiler free, they're all good. They all punch out really well. Any of them that I had to punch. There's some other components that I can't talk about that work really well. All of it really nice. The gameplay itself was just, whoo, man. We're playing and it seems like we are just barely keeping up the whole time. And to be honest, we went on a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We went on a 5-game losing streak. And to be perfectly honest, that was a little difficult to deal with. We were really having a fight to keep playing, and then finally we got out of that losing streak and got going again. That 5-game losing streak really, the board delved into just this complete hellish, especially the Middle East and Europe. From basically the Asian border all the way into the entirety of Europe was just a quagmire, and it was horrific. A lot of that was based on decisions we made, poor decisions we made, as far as how to handle the various stuff that was going on. But the whole time, we were on the edge of our seats trying to do what we could to work our way through and prevent worse stuff from happening. The excitement playing this game was almost palpable. It was so good. When we're playing this game and just trying to, do we let this city go from unstable to riding, so that we can prevent this city from falling, or do we just give up on this city over here, let it fall, and and do what we can to keep it quarantined from that point, so that we can prevent this city from rioting? Because once it riots, we can't build We can't fly into it. We can't build research centers. So maybe we need to keep this one for right. But if this one falls, and that's kind of what it was like. Also, when you're playing it, if a outbreak occurs in a city, if your character is in that city when an outbreak occurs, it gives your character a scar. 3 scars, he's dead. So you really, really worry about leaving your character in a city with 3 cubes, because you sure, 1 scar is going to be fine, but if they end up taking a second scar, well, now they're just 1 away from disappearing, and then then the third scar, they're dead. So this was such a constant fear that after we finished this game and we went back and played some regular Pandemic, we were avoiding cities. We were avoiding ending in cities with 3 cubes, and we had to keep reminding ourselves, oh, no, that was just Pandemic Legacy, regular Pandemic. But that's how much you fear being in that city with 3 cubes in Legacy, because of that permanent change or permanent damage that it does to your character. All in all, I absolutely love this. It's hard for me to say much more about it without getting into specifics about things that happened. I gave it a 90.6%, very high. I believe it's the 3rd highest game that I've rated, just below Dead of Winter and Mage Knight, also 2 fantastic games. So if you enjoy Pandemic, and if the idea of Legacy doesn't bother you, get Pandemic Legacy, period. There's no doubt about it. If both those ideas are fun ideas for you, then you will love this game. On the other hand, if you don't like Legacy, this game's not going to change that for you. If anything, this game is just going to confirm everything that you believe is evil about Legacy, so don't mess with it. And if you don't like Pandemic, that's a little trickier. This game might add enough to it. Like, if you don't like Pandemic, but you do like the idea of Legacy, this game might add enough to it to where it'll be a fun game for you. Now, I've heard of a couple people, listening to podcasts and that sort of thing, who have said that they have enjoyed Pandemic Legacy despite disliking regular Pandemic. So you might be able to find, you might be able to find something in this for you to grab a hold to, and maybe it gives you that extra bit of excitement, that Legacy, to make you enjoy Pandemic. So take that for what it's worth. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like my channel, please subscribe. You can find me on Twitter at boredonlineboardoffline. I'm on Board Game Geek. We've got a guild. Be sure to find the link for that in the description below. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.